The COVID-19 pandemic has forced everyone to embrace a new reality of a virtual world. In regards to college admissions, one of the many areas that was affected was the system of standardized testing, which has evolved drastically within the last year. We saw exams such as College Board's Advanced Placement Test being pushed to adapt an online setting, and even advocates for different grading scales. We also saw the end of the SAT subject test and SAT essay. Finally, we saw how colleges across America were changing the role standardized tests were going to play in admissions for the next few years. And now, one of the leaders for this push for change, the University of California, recently made headlines for declaring that the SAT and ACT would no longer be considered for either admissions or scholarships at any of its 10 campuses. Today, we are going to dive into how we got to this point and what it means for the future of college admissions. But before we get started, if you are interested in some of these new policies, make sure to check out some of the other content on the channel. We have made several videos talking about these areas in more detail, so be sure to take a glance. This is Srinath from Achieve Ed, and now let's get back to the video. As we know, as a response to the new challenges for taking the SAT and ACT in a safe environment, about 60% of the four-year colleges and universities in the United States declared that they would be going test optional for the fall 2021 admission cycle, and now many colleges are extending this to 2022 as well. Last year, UC Regents released a 5-year plan that outlined how test scores were going to be used in admissions, not just for the time being, but for the foreseeable future. This marked the beginning of a movement to completely phase out the SAT and ACT and replace it with their own admissions test by 2025, starting with the test optional status quo and then moving on to a test blind system in 2023 and 2024. And if no test is ready by this time, the University of California will remove this standardized testing requirement altogether. Standardized tests will only be able to fulfill post-enrollment course placement until 2024. COVID-19 has only acted as a catalyst in a long-time dilemma that the University of California system has been facing. These changes actually trace back to a 2019 lawsuit brought by a coalition of students that made the case that the SAT and ACT were biased against certain students, which led to an unfair admission system that discriminated based on race and impeded the poor and disabled, even in a system with voluntary submission. Now, after going to court, the university lost but still complied with the decision, and a settlement was agreed, which resulted in a new entrance exam that would solve the problems regarding the SAT and ACT, among other things. The controversy revolving around standardized tests is not a new one, and as expected, people from both sides of the argument are voicing their opinions. There are already a few schools in the US who have adopted a permanent test blind or test optional model. Both sides certainly have a long list of benefits and drawbacks. For example, Dr. Carol Christ, the Chancellor of UC Berkeley, has long advocated moving away from standardized testing, citing college admission bribery scandals. But on the other hand, a faculty task force from the University of California found that standardized tests were a better predictor of college success than high school grades. Additionally, UC has acknowledged some obstacles that need to be overcome for the new test, as many California high school classes are pre-approved by UC, which challenges the fairness for non-California residents. Also, even assuming a new test solves the problem with the current model of standardized testing, students who want to attend any of the UC schools will need to take the time to sufficiently prepare for both this new test as well as the SAT or ACT if other colleges still demand them, which could compromise performance on the exams. Right now, we are still in the early phases of this change, so it will be interesting to see how UC deals with their current predicament. So what does this all mean for the future of college admissions? Being one of the country's largest and top institutions, this news definitely turned some heads. Senior Vice President at the American Council on Education, Terry W. Hartle, said that this will quite possibly lead other public universities to say, well, if the UC can do without it, why do we still need it? This already seems to be the case, as John A. Perez, a chairman of the system's Board of Regents, said that other college officials outside of California have already told him that they are likely to follow eliminating tests from their admission requirements. The next few years are going to be important in determining the future of standardized testing, and right now, all we can do is sit and wait to see how colleges are going to be tackling the situation. The pandemic has already forced colleges and students to take a glance at the first step of eliminating the test altogether, and now they will need to decide soon on whether to go back to the past, stick to the present, or prepare for a different future. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel as we continue to make videos to keep you guys updated on college news. If you're interested in a free consultation, the link is in the description to sign up. And besides that, I'll see you guys in the next one.